We are hosting and bringing together frontline communities from across the state of Oregon this weekend to bring about a new vision and a new economy.
The Just Transition framework is really of how do we move from an extractive economy to a regenerative and inclusive economy.
The current system that we have basically, as everybody knows, just funnels money up in our labor up to the 1%. And so we need to bring that back down.
Rural infrastructure and rural communities really have been struggling for a long time, and we see the Just Transition as an opportunity to really support our communities coming into a new economy.
On April 29th this year, on my way to the People's Climate March, my family and I were going up 82nd Avenue. And that day, the same day as the People's Climate March, there was a white nationalist march that was also happening. Right now we're facing a real turning point, and there's two movements growing and two visions of the kind of world that we want to build and the kind of answer to our problems.
In the 80s, white supremacists really declared this their kind of white homeland. And they did that because the population of people of color at that time was only about 10%. And so the demographics of our region are very white. And for that reason, it's been a hotbed of organizing and activity by white nationalists and white supremacists on the far right. We need to figure out how to embrace both the alliances of the people who are most affected, the core alliances and the leading forces of our movements, but also speak for everybody, right? And to speak to the downward mobility of working class white people, particularly in rural counties that have experienced stagnation for a very long time.
We need to be united with other groups that have a common agenda to really bring about change in the state of Oregon.
I'm here because I want to come together with other communities who are also directly impacted to figure out what are the real solutions that we desperately need right now.
The way the Assembly is organized is that we didn't want it to feel like a conference. It really is an opportunity for us to bring folks into spaces and support folks sharing their stories, their experiences, with some challenging questions.
When I think about Just Transition, I think about people just coming and just sharing their stories of what they've been through, what they've done to go against what especially people of color are all going through.
The folks who are sitting here have been at the front lines since birth. They have been people whose families have been at the front lines.
Going through this framework, I was able to connect how their labor is being exploited, how our planet is being exploited, and how we are not benefiting from it, and it really has a huge direct impact on our health and our well-being.
In rural Oregon, we're already seeing the impacts of climate change. We're seeing longer, hotter summers, more intense forest fires, droughts, and those impacts of climate change are impacting our quality of life, they're impacting our families, and they're impacting our jobs. We see this Just Transition as imperative to the health and the communities that we come from.
Frontline communities have really been hit first and worst by climate change and environmental racism and environmental injustices. And with our voices being left out, only part of the story is being told.
The Oregon Just Transition Alliance is an important space. We, as frontline community members, need to have the space created for us in order to be able to share that. Moving forward, we need to continue building with one another.
Know that we could make a change, because we could.
Just Transition is to build a movement of movements where we can intersect the different realities from all different communities and come up with paths and solutions that make sense to the people that are most impacted, the most marginalized.
This is just the beginning, right? This is a process of us deepening relationships with leaders and community members across the state of Oregon.
We believe that this is happening to other communities, and that together, fighting together, we can bring about change.
The hardest part is to take that step out and decide I'm not gonna just sit on the couch today and accept the things that are happening in my life. Let me get out and find some people who are like-minded like me.
On our own, we lose. United, we win.